Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Victoria Evans. I'm a science-based intuitive eating specialist helping you stop food fear, food guilt, and self-sabotage so you can eat effortlessly and feel amazing. Today we're going to be talking about intermittent fasting in recovery, which I'm actually very excited about because intermittent fasting was definitely one of the things that, to be honest, really escalated my eating disorder. And so I have some thoughts on it. I'm excited to share them with you. Now, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you to please subscribe to this channel. It really does mean the world to me to know that you're watching and you're supporting and you want to see my videos that are dropping every single week. It really does mean a lot to me. And if you could also if you like the video, and also drop a comment below or what type of video you'd like to see next. I want to make sure that I'm making content that is useful and valuable for you. So with that said, my first thing when it comes to intermittent fasting in recovery, my first kind of concern is that you are completely ignoring your hunger and your fullness cues. Now, if you are someone who is in eating disorder recovery, binge eating, bulimia, anorexia, orthorexia, so many different types, but you might have already kind of overridden that hunger and that fullness cues. With that said, intermittent fasting is just going to exasperate that, right? Because you are only eating within a certain window, within a certain defined period of time, which means in the morning, my body's saying, hey, I'm hungry, right? And we're saying, no, you can't be hungry until 1 p.m., right? We are actively shutting down and confusing our body that is sending us these urges, these desires to eat, right? Our hunger and our fullness hormone are going off. Our body's needing that energy, saying, hey, I need some food. And we're saying no, right? That's very confusing for our body and can lead to a distrust of our body, which can exacerbate, I can't say that word, which can make it worse for our eating disorder. The other thing, right, is that it's creating so much scarcity leading up to our eating window closing. So for myself personally, when I was someone who was intermittent fasting, I had so much anxiety around 8, 9 p.m. at night because it's like, okay, the window is closing. I can't eat anything after that. So to find myself eating way more than I probably would have wanted to in that evening period because I had this sense of fear and anxiety that now the food was being taken away. And I wasn't going to be able to eat until like lunchtime the next day, which created a lot of fear and, to be honest, created a lot of binge eating because I had this like anxiety around that window closing. So in a 2022 review in eating behavior, it basically quotes saying that, intermittent fasting increases hunger and obsession with food, leading to overeating and a cycle of restriction and binging, which is super interesting because a lot of time people are trying the intermittent fasting approach as a way to lessen their binge eating if there's someone who's struggling with binge eating or if they're struggling with binging and purging or whatever it is, right? But it's actually creating those issues like I did for myself in many ways or making them even worse. Where I have seen intermittent fasting work in a very specific scenario is that it is a tapping into a specific abundance mindset within that window that you are allowed to eat, right? So if you're allowed to eat from, 1 to 9 or whatever, and you have the sense of I can eat as much as I want within those hours, you are tapping into that abundance mindset, which our brain and our body loves. It likes to know that there is food availability, so it can make us feel more relaxed and more calm within those hours if we know that we can eat as much as we want, right? Especially for someone who's lived a lot of our life telling ourselves we can't have this, we shouldn't have this is off limits, scarcity, and all of a sudden you have this kind of window in the day where you're allowing yourself that abundance. So in that situation, sometimes intermittent fasting can work with that abundance, but it's not because it's intermittent fasting, it's because you've had a mindset shift from scarcity and I'm not allowed, this is off limits, to permission and allowance and abundance, which help you feel more relaxed around food. We can tap into that and allow ourselves to live that way without requiring our eating windows to be limited, which can cause other issues, right? Like I was saying with that other study, where it can lead to the binge eating response. It can lead to the scarcity and, more problems with eating disorders as a result of that. The next thing is that intermittent fasting studies are almost exclusively done on men, and women's hormones are very different. They're not really taken into consideration here. So men tend to have about a 24-hour clock in terms of their hormones, and women, we have about a 28-day clock, like a 28-day cycle where our hormones and everything and our energy levels are all kind of fluctuating and in play. This basically means that a lot of studies, whether it be for medicine or whether it be for wellness stuff, right? Specifically, for example, with intermittent fasting, is not really looked at what it does to the body, does for women. So when there has been studies done on this, it actually shows that intermittent fasting can have a really bad effect on the female sex hormones, progesterone and estrogen. So really, this is not necessarily a quick, easy fix for women. You know, to just be intermittent fasting to kind of solve all their problems, especially when it comes to women who are of childbearing age, premenopausal. So they're still having their period, right? If they are assigned female at birth, that group of people, fasting can really affect ovulation. It can affect your menstrual cycle. So for myself, I was intermittent fasting. I wasn't eating enough food. My hair was falling out. I lost my period. I was having skin issues. I was really a mess. And a lot of that was, yes, nutrient not getting enough for my body, but also the massive amount of stress that it was causing my body to be in a fasted state as a woman, right, in that kind of childbearing years. Not that I was wanting to have a child, but in terms of how your hormones are working at that time. And building off that, right? So not eating in the morning leads to higher cortisol levels. And cortisol is that stress hormone in your body, which basically means your body's feeling more stressed. Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like I already have enough stress in my life. I don't need to be adding more of it onto my body, which stress on your body has, in certain contexts, can be good. But in the way that we're looking at it in this way, it's not this kind of motivating you and moving you towards things to do, to do better things, right? Is really just creating this compounding stress on your body. So we're waking up in the morning, we already get a kick of cortisol, which basically is to agitate our body into movement, right? Thousands of years ago, get out of the cave, go do something. So now, right, we all have that kind of little cortisol kick in the morning to get us moving. But then we're adding on the black coffee, which is creating more stress. We're not eating, more stress, right? It's just this kind of cortisol on cortisol on cortisol. Maybe we're even now working out in the morning. So we're like triple whammy. So we have the cortisol already. Then we're adding in the not food, more cortisol, black coffee, more cortisol. And now we're working out a quadruple, right? Our body is just like, oh my God, there is so many stressors going on right now. This is not good, right? Your body's going to feel terrible. And I really highly would not advise it. It's just going to make everything feel so much worse. So all this to say, right, intermittent fasting is a stressor on the body. And in the context of our modern day life, right, that's already filled with so much chronic emotional and physiological environmental stress, right, if we are intermittent fasting, then we're really doing more harm than good. It's going to elevate, like I said, our cortisol levels. It can lead to blood sugar dysregulation, right? So these peaks and valleys of our blood sugar, which can lead to things like binging and purging and feeling out of control around food and hunger obsession and, all these types of things. It can increase insulin resistance. It can lead to muscle loss. It can lead to extreme fatigue, thyroid problems, hormonal problems, right? So all these different types of things. So I simply would not advise it. I don't think it's the right move. It's basically telling your body, don't listen to your body. It's telling you to listen to a clock, right? When you can eat, when you can't eat. It's just not serving you. And the only time, like I said, it can sometimes be useful for people is when they're tapping into that abundance mindset, which is not have to be exclusive to intermittent fasting, right? We can reach that place. We can get to a state of, being able to, reach that abundance, have any food we want in the house, feel totally calm and relaxed around the food, which I thought was something I would never be able to do, right? But we can get to that state. We know how to do that. We know the steps. Intermittent fasting, especially if you're someone in eating disorder recovery, it's not the play. You'll see on most websites that are talking about intermittent fasting, and they really should all say it, that they do not recommend it for people in eating disorder recovery. It is just not a smart move. So with that said, if you're someone who's like, yeah, I want to tap into this abundance mindset, I want to have that food freedom, have eating feel effortless and not have it take up so much mental real estate and be worrying and calorie counting and obsessing and thinking about my body and food and everything. If you're done with having that be such a huge part of your life because you're so much more than you're eating and obsessing about what your body's looking like in that moment, if you're feeling that pull, that call, that there's more out there for you, like I know I did for myself, and now my life is pretty freaking cool, but I never really dreamed that it could just be more than that body when I was in my own recovery. That said, if you're feeling that call, if this feels like something you might want to be interested in pursuing, then I highly invite you to go ahead to the link below, book a free assessment call. We'll get to chat one-on-one, talk about what your goals are, tell me your story. We'll go through everything. And from there, we can really start to support you and get you set up to live that life that you've always wanted to. Now, with that said, I invite you to please hit the subscribe button. I'm dropping a new video every single week, and I would absolutely love to have you here and joining me for future videos. So hit the subscribe button, and if you like this video, please hit the like button, as well as comment below what type of video you'd like to see next. All right, thank you so much for watching, and until next week, have an amazing rest of your day.